Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is Angry Russians, Mark of the Beast, and the Internal Revolution. Okay, first of all, let me give you a little bit of good news. We have updated the prophecy charts. As you see the one behind me, it is now updated, and these charts are now available in the download section at prophecyclub.com for free. You can download the charts. And of course, I'd recommend you get the book that explains the charts. That would be this one, Secret Door to Understand Bible Prophecy, also available at prophecyclub.com. Now, I could go in and explain to you all of the neat little things that have been changed and updated. But if you've seen the other charts, you'll say, wow, yeah, this really is good. So this is the chart that is showing the last 6 months. This is the chart that shows the last 7 years. You recall when I was memorizing the book of Revelation, which I wrote this book from that, I heard the audible voice of God say the 7 seals play over 7 years. The 7 trumpets play over 7 months. The 7 vials play over 7 days. So that is the chart, if you want to know how Revelation is laid out, if you want to understand Revelation, right there is the chart. If you want to understand how Revelation plays out in the last 6 months, when the rapture is and all that sort of stuff, then this is the chart you want. They're both available in the back of this book. Here's the last 7 years. This one is the last 6 months. And those are, which by the way, okay, so I've written a new book, and I'm going to talk more about it here, hopefully in 4 or 5 weeks when I get it printed. But anyway, it's called The Pentecost Rapture of the Bride. Pentecost Rapture of the Bride. It has been accepted by Thomas Nelson and Zondervan, which those are the largest Christian book publishers in the world. And they're very excited to have the book, and we both think it's going to sell a lot. I'm not concerned about making the money, but I do. Matter of fact, what I want to come from it, I want Leslie and I to start getting accepted to go out and speak ministry at churches as a result of it. But anyway, back to this. Oh, talking about that, I can't do this in the new book. It's like raises the cost like unbelievable. They can't do this, okay? But I'm still going to be able to offer the book through Prophecy Club, and it'll still have the charts on there. But anyway, so if you want the charts, go to prophecyclub.com, go to the download section, and you can download them. This chart and this chart. The last 7 months, the last 7 years, the last 7 months, both of those are available for free download. As a matter of fact, my son and I were just talking about it. You can download, you just search, do a Google search for prophecy charts, and man, there's a bunch of them. But there's not any of them that are even close to resembling my charts. And I think that it's a God-ordained thing. Anyway, okay, so before I get started into today's message, the way I wish this would work is I wish that enough to keep the ministry going would just come in sort of like on a daily basis. But like for the last couple of days, I've been saying, okay, well, it's starting to get tight. Please remember us in your giving. And pretty much like nothing's come in. So if you have to operate on knowing when we're going to be in the red, I will project right now by about mid to next week, we will be down in the red again. So if you could help, now would be a really good time. I don't like having to ask, but that's the truth of it. Okay, anyway, Dmitri was told, then from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and 2 of the countries, I believe, are Venezuela and North Korea, we don't know for sure, will attack and defeat America in 1 hour. Now, that is looking very close to arriving. Why do I say that? Here's another reason why the Russians now can attack us. They've already got several other reasons. They're actually, in my opinion, being very patient. Russia on Trump authorizing Ukraine to make deep strikes into Russia. This isn't escalation, the Russians say. its ignition. What does that mean? It's saying that if America makes missiles that wind up killing Russians, then that will make America a target. Okay, so here's some of the details on it. President Donald Trump has authorized Ukraine to engage in long-range missile and drone strikes deep inside Russia. That's a red line. That's a red line. Russia has already said, whether it's NATO or whatever nation assists Ukraine. Now, if Ukraine does it, that's fine. But when it's advanced, long-range, very accurate missiles that can only be accomplished by American fingers and American satellites, and the Russians know that, and what they're saying is you do that, and you make yourself a target. Now, what I'm about to say I can't prove, but what it comes to my heart is that Russia and Ukraine, while they're enemies, while they hate each other, kind of like the old saying that says, the enemy of my enemy must be my friend. Well, the enemy of Ukraine and the enemy of Russia is both America. I think that the Russians and Ukrainians have an agreement that they're going to kill each other until finally they get NATO, i.e. America, involved in that war to the point to where Russia can attack and destroy America in a surprise nuclear attack in 1 hour. And see, the Russians can't just attack. They can destroy us anytime they want to. But they can't in terms of the rest of the world will not accept it. They have to do it in a way to where the rest of the world will not just attack them. So they have to look for an excuse. And one has not provided that excuse. So Ukraine, Russia has got together in a devil's pact to try to get NATO and specifically America involved in the war so that when America is destroyed by Russia, the rest of the nations are not going to come after Russia. Now, never mind, that's not the way it happens. But that's their thinking on it. That's what I believe God has spoke to my heart. Now, watch. So it goes on to say the U.S. Constitution does not authorize the U.S. government to wage a proxy war. In other words, where we send the missiles to Ukraine or to NATO, NATO gives them to Ukraine, Ukraine fires the missiles into Russia. He's making a point. U.S. Constitution does not authorize that. Using a secondary country, Ukraine, to attack a third country, Russia, but that is precisely what America has been doing now for 3 years. Vladimir Zelensky is also asking President Trump, here it is, to authorize the sale of U.S. Tomahawk cruise missiles. Now, I'm not a military guy. I've not looked it up. I don't understand. But my guess is the Tomahawk is a very advanced, precise missile that is guided by satellites. And of course, if the Tomahawks are, and they probably are, I'm probably going to get some emails confirming, yes, they are. If they are guided by satellites, Ukraine does not have satellites. NATO, again, I'm guessing, I think I'm right. NATO also does not have the satellites to guide such advanced weaponry. That would be America. Meaning, if that's true, if the Tomahawk needs American satellites, American targeting, American guidance for them to hit Russia, and a Tomahawk winds up on Russian soil, killing Russians, all of a sudden, that makes us a target. All of a sudden, Russia can then have an excuse before the eyes of the world to say, hey, they attacked us first. We warned. They wouldn't listen, so we had to take them out. Both the launching of deep strikes into Russia and providing long-range missiles guided by U.S. military satellites to carry out such long-range strikes are, they've been saying this for months, maybe years, they're red lines for the Russians. Crossing those red lines would likely see Russia declare the U.S. as a party to the conflict. Russia have been warning us. I've read several articles where the Russians have been warning us, don't do this. And then, now before it was stupid Biden doing it, but now, if Trump does this, we're going to be in trouble. Thereby opening the door to Russia begin striking targets here in America. Okay, next topic. Mark of the Beast. I recommend you go to watchprophecyclub.com. You want to see this. Of the over 300 DVDs we have up there, we made over 25 years. This is and always has been among the top 5. Matter of fact, there are people stick this up all over the internet. But I recommend you go to watchprophecyclub.com because this is Ken Peters. Story is, he received a dream over 55 years ago. This was recorded in the year 2000. He's gone to be with the Lord now. He lived through the first 3.5 years of the tribulation until he was beheaded with a scimitar sword in a face-up position. He tells what it was like for the Christians that were monitored by their TVs, how they were seen and heard in their own home. He was shown what the mark of the beast looks like, what the Antichrist looks like, how he spreads his message on large building-sized screens. Many events in the dream have already come to pass. I'd recommend you go see it. Now, I also recommend you get this book. I wrote this book, Miss the Mark. It's a simple book. It's a quick read. You can read through it in about 3 hours. This is designed to hand to anybody, even if they worship another god. If they'll read a few pages, they'll probably finish the book. And if they finish the book, they will never take the mark of the beast, because this one lays it out, and it has Ken Peters' testimony. I mean, I think it's the whole testimony in the book. Anyway, Ken Peters said, the mark of the beast was about the size of a U.S. nickel. It was located in the web here, between the thumb and the first finger, and looked like a yellow Mexico sun with another hand in the middle of the sun. Ken said he did not see a computer chip attached with it at all, but that does not necessarily mean computer chips aren't used. Either that, or it goes on the right hand or the other of the forehead, or it fits perfectly with Scripture. This is what he saw, the one on the right, the yellow one. He said it looks something like that. Then I have 2 other people, I being one of them, that the Lord has spoke to my heart, said this is the number of his name. In other words, it looks like this. That's where it goes. And this is the number of his name. It may look like that, but anyway, you'll recognize it if that ever comes out. So don't take that. You take that mark, you're tossed into the lake that burns with fire and brimstone. With the beast of false prophet, 1,000 years later, Satan is added, and you cannot escape. There is no repentance. There is no hope for removal, and it is total 100% pain and torture for all eternity. Whatever happens, do not take the mark or the number of his name. Now, here's information. This is coming about Bill Gates. Electronic tattoos, the forewarned mark of the beast. Bill Gates believes that electronic tattoos will soon replace smartphone technology. Okay, so he's the guy that has started us with Microsoft, okay, and has also aided a lot of the cell phones. Now he's saying he's doing away with the cell phones. That's big news. This is not a dystopian fable, but an active plan set in motion by Chaotic Moon that was acquired by Accenture. Nanocapacitors, very, very small. Nanocapacitors that conduct electricity will be integrated into the body through small electronic or biometric tattoos that are activated by simple vital signs. Don't need batteries. Smartwatches would be obsolete as the tattoo tracks body temperature, steps, heart rate, potential health issues, and more. Okay, they don't care about our health. They'd soon kill us all. However, body gestures would have the power to unlock doors, turn on lights, connect to the internet. One could browse the web without the need for screens or batteries. Annual visits to the doctor would be obsolete as the device would notify the doctor if something was wrong and notify authorities if you don't have the mark of the beast. The markings can also be used for wireless identification, government searching to track citizens. That's the whole point. You take one of those and you cannot escape. Even if it's not the mark, look it. I'm telling you, I've told you a lot of times, cell phone's not your friend. Cell phone is not your friend. Did you know on every one of your cell phones it lists every place you go to? They can find you. It's not hard. I mean, how do they find most of the killers these days? They find them by their cell phones. They don't talk about it a lot, but that's what they do. A lot of people are in prison today because they had a cell phone on their body when they were doing a dastardly deed. These devices are intended to replace the current financial system. What? There you go. Designed to replace the current financial system, credit and debit cards will be stored on the device. Debit and credit cards will be stored on the device. I'm not one to preach the concept of revelation, he says, but there is a clear connection to the ancient prophecy. That's their quote, and look at what they also say, straight out of the King James Bible. And he casteth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in the right hand or in the forehead. And then no man might buy or sell save he had the mark and the name of the beast or the number of his name. I didn't put that in there. That was in the article. Now let's talk about the internal revolution. So Eric Shalwell, wonderful Democrat, vows revenge against Trump and anyone who worked with Trump. Really? Yeah. Shalwell stated that the House Democrats plan to target private citizens who have worked with the Trump administration, expressed the hope that Comey indictment would deter individuals from engaging in what he called one-offs or deals with the president. Democrats intend to enter the majority of Congress a year from then, in other words, about a year from now, signaling that accountability is coming. Okay, so they don't want the good guys rounding them up, but they'd be happy, the bad guys, be happy to round up the good guys. Shalwell's statements have been interpreted as a vow to weaponize government against Trump allies if Democrats regain power. Now, we know eventually they're going to get power. We know eventually that they're going to start rounding up, or maybe not round them up, maybe just kill them. That's what Brandon Biggs said. He saw that they send out drones. I put videos up about these drones that can go out and search between trees and in caves. They can find you. When they find you, they notify the authorities. The authorities show up, and either you take the mark right then or there, or they cut your head off. Simple as that. No questions asked. He specifically mentioned that Democrats would investigate and target those involved in so-called deals with the president. You remember where it says, let's see if I can quote it. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints, and were all slain upon the earth. And the angel turned to me and wondered, says, why is it thou wonder? I will tell thee the mystery of the beast and of the seven heads and the beast that carrieth her. It goes on to say that she kills a lot of people. That's talking about the Catholic Church. Catholic Church killed a bunch in the past, but that ain't nothing compared to what's coming in the future. And we've had prophecies that explain that, but I'm going to go on here. Over 100,000 federal employees expected to quit Tuesday. Now, I'm recording this Tuesday, 9/30/2025 at 2:50 p.m. I haven't heard, but my guess is this is probably still on the table. My guess is that by tomorrow morning, by Wednesday morning, they will not have averted a shutdown. Democrats want a shutdown, and the Republicans aren't going to back up on this one. And I think it is all part of the White Hat plan, to where they can say, okay, we're going to do more than just government shutdown. We are going to replace the Constitution, put in a new president, President Trump, into a new republic. We're going to make a lot of changes, new financial system, and it may be all of those things are about to happen, and that just happens to be on the Feast of Atonement. That just happens to be when apparently this deal between Gaza or the Hamas and Israel apparently is about to go through at last check. And in that it is happening on the Day of Atonement, which just happens to be the day that I think that the tribulation starts and ends on. All of this just happens to be happening on a feast date. And Leviticus 23:37 says everything upon his day. In other words, when the hand of God is making something move, it happens on a feast day. It happens on his day. So all of a sudden, our government's about to shut down. Israel's about to have a peace agreement. And I don't know if you heard this or not, but most of the Arab nations are about to sign on to the Abraham, or Abraham, however you want to say it. The correct Hebrew way to pronounce it is Abraham. But here we are, we're about to see Muslim nations agree to the Abraham Accord. What does that mean? It's saying that Muslim nations agree that it's okay for the state of Israel to exist. That's big. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. I covered that yesterday. This may very well turn up to be the covenant. In other words, if this is not the start of the tribulation, when the Antichrist arrives, and I don't think he's arrived yet, at least I don't believe I've seen him. So when he does arrive, he may confirm this covenant, and that may start the tribulation. So don't necessarily think the tribulation is going to start on or right at the Day of Atonement. It could. There's a very high probability it will. But also it could be that at some point the Antichrist does finally arrive and he confirms it. That's all it takes. And that might not be a signature. That might be simply a nod, or maybe he doesn't have to say anything at all. He just goes along with it. What I'm saying is there's a lot of things to be watching for. Do I know something's going to? No, God has not told me. I don't know. I keep asking. He won't answer me. Let me go on. So last week, the Office of Personnel Management reportedly circulated internal guidance to the agencies warning them to prepare for waves of deferred resignations and reductions in force should Congress fail to approve the full appropriations. My guess is we're going to a shutdown. Now, is that also going to tie into give us our entitlements, the protests in the street, burning buildings, the internal revolution? See, all of this could be fitting into an internal revolution. As prophecy students, that's what we do. We're watchmen, so we watch. Federal agents arrest a D.C. police sergeant on weapons and assault charges. Okay, so the scoop is the police sergeant got pulled over. He got pulled over, well, I shouldn't say it that way. He ran into a parked car. When they arrived, he was drunk, and then he started fighting the officers. So he got arrested for drunk, disorderly conduct, and aggravated assault on a police officer. And they're saying this is not the first D.C. police officer that's been arrested. So when the police are bad, then you can imagine the kind of trouble that Washington, D.C. has had. And now they're going to Portland. My guess is they're going to find that and worse in Portland, and that worse in Chicago. In other words, when the bad guys start getting rounded up, when the massive arrests hit, I don't think that the devil's going to like that at all. And I think that it will begin to cause the internal revolution. Internal revolutions such as we've never seen. Further confirmation, Chuck Schumer has been humiliated after fellow Dems erupt in an open mutiny. Wait a minute. In our Congress, we have an open mutiny between leadership. Yeah, we're having open mutinies all over between police officers and the Fed, just like I said. We're having open mutiny between the Dems and the Republicans, open mutiny between the blacks and the whites. We are a nation divided. We are a nation divided. United we stand, divided we fall. And like the angel said to Dana Coverstone, the nation divided shall not stand. I think we're real close to a lot of trouble starting in our nation. So my suggestion, ask Jesus into your heart. Get yourself saved. And if God has blessed you and you can help Prophecy Club, now would be a real good time. If you don't want to lose your life savings, if you have an IRA or a 401k, the thing to do is call 800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD. These folks are Christians, and they specialize in helping people not lose their life savings in the event of a stock market crash and things like that. Look, most of the 401ks, most of the IRAs are in paper, backed by paper, and as Lindsey Williams says, if it's in paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. You can lose it all. 1-800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD. Hey, give them a call. Doesn't hurt, doesn't cost you anything. See if they can give you some good advice. If you want to be on the end of making money, gold and silver is preserving your money. If you want to be on the end of making money, then you might want to call prophecyclubcrypto.com, or actually go to it, or call that number at the bottom right corner. Ask them about crypto if you're in the position where you can make money. When the suitcase nukes, I didn't say if, I said when the suitcase nukes go off, if you want your car to start, if you want your computers and your refrigerators and things like that, anything with a computer chip to work, you want to have one of these from EMPShield.com. EMPShield.com. And they have videos up there. It takes about 10 minutes to put on. It's not complicated at all. And if you use the word prophecy, promo code prophecy, you get a $50 discount, and it helps Prophecy Club.